Santa Sylvia. I am a social worker by profession. I've been doing this for the last 9 years now. I started working with an organization called Viva, which is an international organization. And recently I've started my own organization and it's called Hope Nest. I've been working with women and children. One of the main focus area that I've been focusing on is sexual abuse. The reason why I'm so passionate and this is after my heart is because I am a victim of child sexual abuse. Maybe when I was about 9 or 10 years old, I don't remember. I was studying in 5th or 6th standard back then. I was sexually abused by my cousin brother. And although my parents, I come from a very friendly family. My mother, I would say, is my best friend. Anything that happens, she'll be the first person, she'll be the first go-to person, the first person I'll run to and share my heart. And I come from that kind of a family. And when this thing happened to me, when I experienced and when I had gone through this kind of an abuse, it was so difficult for me to even share this with my mother. But there were many nights that I just cried. I wasn't able to sleep. I wasn't able to study. I back then I couldn't gel with friends. I couldn't talk to people. All I wanted to do is just isolate myself and then just be myself. And one thing that I was repeating and one thing that I constantly kept telling myself is, because I'm a bad girl, or maybe because I'm bad, this happened to me. Why should it happen only to me of all the people in the world? So maybe it's my fault, and I started blaming myself and I started hating myself. Only when I started growing up and is when I realized that I need to talk to my mother about it, because this is something that I kept to myself and I'm not shared with anyone. And I wanted to do something for the other children who were sailing in the same boat. Children who've gone through this but not able to talk to anybody about it. The same bitter experience that I've experienced in my childhood is something that I wanted to help the other children who are going through. So when I was about 25 years for the first time, not 25, in my 20s, I'm not sure if I was 25, but in my 20s, for the first time, I went and told my mother, I seriously went and called my mother. I told her, there's something serious I want to talk to you about, and this is what happened. And the first thing my mother said was, stop lying. He's a person who cannot do that, and no, you're lying. And I didn't know how else to react, but without my own conscience, there were tears that were rolling down my cheeks. And I told my mother, I'm so old now, and this happened maybe 10 years ago, and why do you think I would lie to you at this age? And if you don't trust me, who else do you think is going to trust me? And why do you think I will lie about such a thing? I'm not going to profit or gain anything out of saying this to you. I'm not here to defame his name, but out of just trust, and I confide in you, so that's why I want to share this with you. And what hurt me the most that time was, I told my mother this, is if a mother like you, who's being so friendly, is not ready to believe me, and if you feel that I'm lying, what about the other children who come from orthodox traditional families whose parents don't even talk about these things? How do you think are these children fighting this battle all alone by themselves? I started this organization called Hope Nest, primarily focusing to work with underprivileged children, because in terms of trafficking or abuse, at least now the other parents who are being educated, they've picked up their socks and they're saying, like, we need to start teaching our children about all of this, and they start, at least it's not being a taboo anymore with the people who are being educated. But what about the parents who are still not gone to school? What about the first generation learning kids? Their parents are not educated, they have some mean jobs, and for them it's still a taboo to talk about all these things. So I primarily want to start my work with the first generation learners and help them be safe, because it's not their fault to be born in such a family. They didn't choose to be born there, but they deserve a good life. So we want to protect them, and in the whole process, it's a very holistic approach. Right from safety to everything, we're teaching them right from the scratch. In the Commissioner's office, there is one particular dedicated team called Anti-Human Trafficking Unit. So we as a team approached this particular unit because they are police people dedicated and work only for this cause and not anything else. So we meet with them and tell them, we give them the information in the last minute that in such and such a locality place, so many girls are there and so many minor girls are there, furnish all the details that's required, and we will actually go with our team and explain all this to the police, the unit that's going to assist us in a company. Because as NGOs, we do not have any rights to go for a raid. It's only the police people that have all the authority. So we go along with them. But as NGOs, we just, do all the background work and go with them. So just when we go there, we take a male decoy. A decoy is a person who will pretend to be a customer and go in first. So we actually give them currency notes, and as an NGO or a social worker, this is where we pitch in. We will take photocopies. We will make photocopies of these currency notes and keep the copies with us. So when the decoy goes in there and engages the girl, and the madam takes the money, there's a lot of in the whole raid. There's a lot of evidences that we need to collect, like used condoms, unused condoms, and everywhere you'll find a whole lot of tali, the Mangal Sutra, and unused condom packets under every pillow and in every corner you will find that. And we also need to collect all the used condoms, because people may say, yes, I'm married, so I have condoms at home. That's none of our business, as they rightly say. But we'll have to collect a lot of used condoms. So if one girl is serving, like, say, 7 to 8 customers in a day, and they can use as many as condoms they want, so then the question, that can be a supporting question to say, so why are so many used condoms lying here, and things like that. So we have to collect all these evidences, and more than any of all this, the main supporting document will be the currency notes that we seize from them. So when we seize the currency notes from them, when the police seizes it, they will match the number of the currency notes with the printouts that we already have, and that will be the biggest evidence for us in the court to say, if you're not keeping these girls and running a business out of it, then why then did you take money from this decoy? And this is how the entire raid happens.